Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking time again on another Tuesday to practice yoga core with us. As always, just give yourself a moment to look around and make sure you have a safe space. All right. So, no slippery objects close by. As always, we start either sitting in a comfortable shape or lying on our backs. So we'll start with some breathing. We'll spend about 5 minutes relaxing and just, getting in touch with our breath. So if you're lying back, you might find constructive rest pose, which is bending your knees, letting your feet relax, finding the neutral curves of your spine. Arms can hang down. If you choose to sit up, you can sit up. You don't have to have a super regal, tense posture. You could sit crisscross applesauce. You could sit up on a blanket or a block if that's helpful, okay? So putting your body in a shape that invites some awareness, but also invites that sense of letting go and finding a little more ease. We'll take the next maybe 10 to 15 seconds just in silence so you can check in. Maybe ask yourself how you're feeling physically. How are you feeling energetically? You might find it helpful to set an intention for the next 45 minutes for your practice. What would you like to get out of practicing, out of moving your body, out of breathing? And then just guiding your attention to the space beneath you, to the ground. Feeling the strength and the stability of the ground. Give yourself a moment to feel your body connect to that stability, let go into that stability. And then a gentle reminder that you have total agency over what you do in your practice here. So as we move through different exercises and different yoga poses, as we tune into different parts of our body when we're breathing, you have total agency to really listen, pay attention, and do what you need to do, okay? So that starts by paying attention and learning awareness. And so that's why we always start either lying back or seated. So let's give ourselves a couple more breaths. And then bringing your awareness to the mechanics of breathing. And so one of the more easiest places to feel your breath is down in your rib cage. So if it's okay and comfortable, you can put your hands on your ribs and just feel how your ribs move when you exhale and how your ribs move when you inhale. You might feel as you exhale how your ribs draw down towards your pelvis. And they also release down towards the floor. You might feel that through your navel. And when you inhale, your ribs expand. Your navel lifts up. Exhale, ribs draw down. Navel draws towards your spine, towards the floor. Inhale, navel floats up. Ribs broaden. And try and just let your body do this. So I know sometimes it can be really easy to like squeeze. So when you exhale, you're squeezing and really forcing your navel down. Okay. So not squeezing so much, just more, oh, this is what naturally happens. This is your body's way of moving tissues and fascia and muscles when you breathe. Bones move, tissues move. Let's just see if we can feel that 3 more times. So 3 inhales, 3 exhales. And the next time you feel your ribs release down and your navel sink back a little bit, we'll bring your arms up towards the ceiling. We're going to interlace, so you can interlace your hands or you could stack your palms, and you're going to bend your elbows and bring your hands behind your head. So putting your elbows out wide-ish, and I say ish on purpose because we don't want the elbows so wide they fall to the floor and we arc through the mid-back. We don't necessarily want the elbows facing straight up towards the ceiling either. So the ish part is right in the middle of those 2 places for a lot of us. Elbows out, and then the elbows connecting through your triceps into your back shoulder blades across. So it's nice and wide between your shoulder blades. Like the back of your heart, we're sinking into the mat. Okay, we want to feel nice and wide. Feel the back ribs in connection with your spine into your low back. So it takes a little bit of getting used to understanding and trying to feel places we can't see. So give yourself some time. And then you're going to tune in and feel the rhythm mechanics of the breathing again. So when you feel your exhale and those ribs draw down, that's when the head and the shoulders float up. And you come up just a little bit. You take another breath. And then when you connect again, feel your ribs draw down. Navel draws back. You might lift a little bit higher. Trying to keep your low belly long. It's really easy to tuck, so we're not pushing your low back into the floor. And then lengthen and lower back down. Let's do one more about that slow together. So just reconnect, reorganize, take a moment. Feel the mechanics of your breathing as you exhale, ribs draw down, navel to spine. Head and shoulders can float up a little bit. Then you might pause, using your arms a little more than your neck. So you might exhale, come up a little bit higher. You might not. You might stay right where you were. Everyone finds their challenge. Really try to let your arms connect into your upper back, holding your head. So you could practice a little less tension in your neck, and then roll back down. So then when you feel that, see if you can do 2 more. If you want more challenge, you're going to lift your knees straight up over your hips. Can you feel that relationship between breath, strength, and movement? It will be, more challenging to use the neck less. A lot of times when we do slow little sit-ups, I get people complaining, oh, my neck hurts. So just really being aware that you're not overusing your neck. And if you feel you're coming up really high and straightening in the neck, it's always okay to back off. Remember, you have agency. So you want to back off and find just the right challenge. And then we'll lower back down. Bring the hands away from the head, down by your side. Just notice your experience. What did that feel like? How do you feel now? Give yourself 2 or 3 breaths. Then you can bring your knees up over your hips. There's a couple ways we can get up. You can hold on to the back of your legs. You could do a little sit up and roll up using your legs to help you. You could also roll over to your side and come on up, tabletop. All right, so give yourself a moment or 2 or 3 or 5 to build your strong table. So wrists, shoulders, okay? So you can walk your wrists out in front of you a little bit if you need to. That's gonna take less load, less flexion in your wrists, that might help, okay? Hips, knees. You might walk your knees back if you need to, okay? Where we really wanna be careful is that we're not over tucking in the tail like this and rounding too much in the low back. We also wanna be careful that we're not sinking and giving into the rib cage, okay? So we're still resisting gravity. Might feel a little bit like you're pressing the back of your head, your upper, mid, back, and your pelvis up towards the ceiling a little more. And then come back and see if you can still feel that relationship with your rib cage as you breathe. So as you take 3 breaths, remember where your hands were on your rib cage, and just see if you can feel the ribs still sliding down and in with your exhale. The ribs getting a little more spacious with your inhale. Might not be as dynamic here because you're stabilizing and you're holding, so might feel different than when we were on our backs. And then let's wake up your wrists. So in your forearms, so as you walk, you can walk out wide with your arms, you can walk back, you can walk forward, maybe you flip your hands and walk really slow and light. Gotta stay really connected through your core as you walk around. Just do what you need, be creative. Feeling, noting, working in a way where we're lubricating, just getting a little more awareness, strength with mobility. And then we'll walk back. Each one of us will take a moment to build our table. When you get back to your table, curl your toes, resist gravity with your spine, which just means we're not doing something like this. We're not sinking way down towards the floor. Ooh, coming back. So your back, your spine is in your back body. If you want a little more challenge, down's gonna create up. So you might curl your fingers a little bit, get strong fingers and hands, strong forearms. Push down, you can really push the floor into the basement, push through your toes and maybe float your knees up. Hold your floating table. You can come down whenever you want and then lower back down. So we're gonna take about 15 seconds. You can do 1 more or 2 more. Maybe you just wanna do little pulses going up and down. Maybe you want to hold. So pick just the right challenge for you. At any time, it takes just as much strength to back off and take a child's pose. Okay? So when you're finished, we'll come down either to tabletop. You could push back into child's pose. I know last week some people said child's pose wasn't so great on your knees. So you can always come and just come down on your side, draw your knees in. Put a hand underneath your head. So this could be your alternative to child's pose. You could also push your hips up and back and find downward facing dog. So come in on your side, come into child's pose or downward facing dog. If you're coming to downward facing dog, feel free to bend and straighten the knees a little bit. We'll whatever shape you're in, come in and take 3 inhales and 3 exhales. With your next exhale, we're gonna figure out how to come on up to standing. So you're gonna have to roll up if you're on your side. If you're in child's pose, maybe come to tabletop. Each one of us has our own strong way to come up nice and connected through our body. Come all the way on up to standing. Find a comfortable standing shape. We'll give ourselves 3 breaths so we can all catch up with each other. And just come back to your breath. Might feel nice to be curious, be kind to yourself as you're curious. How are you feeling here? I'm a little out of breath. And we're gonna step your feet wide. So we'll step the feet wide. Heels are gonna come in, toes are gonna go out, and then we're just gonna warm up with some sumo. So going up and down, we're just gonna do 3. And then we're gonna play a little bit and explore action and resistance. So if you take one arm out, doesn't matter which one, when you start doing a bicep curl, and you just do it mindlessly, you can do this for quite a long time. When I do it, I just feel like bones are moving. I don't feel any connection through any muscles really or tissues. In fact, my mind is kind of wandering and talking to you. I'm not even really paying attention. If I add resistance, so my arm is straight and I resist bending it, it becomes a really different exercise. So let's try that, okay? You can straighten your arms. You can keep a little fist if you want. So when you bend your arm, now really resist straightening it. And just see what that feels like compared to this. And notice in your own language what that feels like. You can add the other arm and do a couple. You're resisting. So as they bend, you resist straightening. And as they straighten, you resist bending. Okay? You might feel, I feel in my body really different, but I feel I have to keep this a little stronger and a little more in my awareness than when I'm doing it just like this. When I'm really resisting, this part, this core piece, just naturally turns on a little more. So maybe you notice that in your own body. We're going to add that into the legs. So as your legs are straight here, you're going to resist bending. You go at your own pace, and you're going to resist straightening. And we're going to do 2 more. So it's kind of like your legs really want to stay straight, but they're going to bend. And then when you get down, it's like, well, we really like being bent, but we have to straighten. If you want more challenge, try both of those together. Just 3 times. And then after 3, we'll step our feet together and take a 3, 4, or 5 breath standing meditation break. So we'll just come right back, checking back in with ourselves, feeling our bodies, feeling our breath. Let's take a full exhale. I'm going to shift the weight into your heels. So want to feel how the weight shifts in the heels. And then we're going to do a chair squat. So you're going to sit down a little bit, check. You can still see your toes. And then check, navel to spine and up into your upper abdominals, nice and strong. And then you're going to resist standing up. You're going to resist your chair. You're going to resist standing up. If you want more challenge, add your arms. We're going to swing the arms back when we go down, swing the arms forward and up, okay? With resistance. Anytime that you're moving and you have a question, you get curious, pause. So if you're like midway through, you're like, oh, am I still strong navel to spine? What do I feel in my upper abdominals and my mid back? You can pause and check in. That's how we learn and we understand, and we make those changes in strength, mobility, and stability. Good, let's try 2 or 3 more. After 2 or 3 more, we're gonna pause in your chair. I like to call it stool because we don't need to sit. I think sometimes when we think of chair, we go really, really low, and then we push the ribs forward and we lose this integrity. So I just discovered in the last class I was teaching, it was a little better if we called it stool. It's easier for us to keep a little more awareness, strength, rib abdominal connection. Arms are going to press back. Okay, you're going to pull the fingers down out of the ears and just hold for 3 breaths. Weight in the heels, check. You can look down and see your toes. With your exhale, swing your arms forward, resist standing up and stand, and then let your arms come down by your side and give yourself 3 to 4 or 5 breaths. All right, we're going to use that chair stool squat as our home base. Okay, so we're going to add on and build from that. All right, so find just the right challenge for you. That's different than anybody else in class. So you're the only one that feels your challenge. So find your stool or your chair. Arms are going to come back. And now you're going to challenge yourself to lift your left heel up and pull the heel back and down 2 more times. So you could notice the shift into the right hip. And then the next time your left heel's up, pause. Notice the shift of weight into the right hip, maybe even into the right lower belly quadrant. And if you want even more challenge, you're going to pick up your left leg and step it back into a lunge. Okay, so you're probably going to come to a projected lunge. And I'm going to lift the chest up and find more of a high lunge. Bring your hands to your hips. Find your hip bones. Let the hip bones lift up a little bit. Thigh bone, back left thigh bone can press back. And then we're going to work in this right front leg. We're going to resist straightening the front leg. Resist, resist, resist. And then resist bending. 2 more times. So, hips forward. Ribs forward, chest forward. Resisting, bending, and straightening. Then you're going to choose where you want to put that right knee. So as your right knee comes forward the next time, pause. 1 more time, lift up through your front hips. Maybe a little more challenge, taking your arms forward and up. You might lift up through the back ribs. Press the left thigh bone back. Pause, feel, soften through the shoulders, the face, the jaw. Are you strong in that navel to spine area? Then your left leg behind you has to step forward, back to your chair. Hands come to your hips. Check in with your strength. Maybe a hand on your navel, one on your low back just to help you feel, oh yeah, nice and strong there. Then resist standing up. Arms hang. 3, 4, 5 breaths. So notice what it sounds like when you breathe. You let your breath get really, really, really quiet. Breathing in and out through your nose. When you're ready, feel how the weight shifts back into the heels. Hip creases draw back. We resist bending into your chair or your stool. You don't have to go as low as a chair. Strength from the low belly to the low back. Lift up through the back ribs. right heel lifts. Okay, if having your arms up is too much, no big deal, bring them down. Get into the strength of this left hip. You might feel that right away when you lift that right heel. And then 3 little heel lifts. Then it's a balance. Pick up the right leg. Feel that strength. So it's good. Feel how strong you are in that left hip and that left lower belly quadrant as you step that right foot back. Build your high lunge. Give yourself time building a foundation. We talk about this a lot on Tuesdays, stacking the ears, the shoulders, and the hips. Find just the right thigh bone. Push that right thigh bone back, lift up through the heel. Feel that strength. Left leg, resist straightening and resist bending. 2 more times with your breathing. Inhale, resist straightening. Exhale, resist bending. And find just the right place for your left knee. Notice if you're holding this in your chest or your jaw or your eyes. Check back in. If you're holding this in your neck and your jaw, come down and check in with your low belly, maybe even your upper abdominals. Ooh. That space from your navel to your back, really strong, maybe shoulder stretch. Now, maybe is a maybe that's too much for you. Doesn't mean you're not strong if you don't lift your arms. Then press that right thigh bone back again. Remember, we have to step that right foot forward. So nice and strong and slow as you pull your right foot, right knee back. Find your chair or your stool. Resist standing up. Arms come down. Take 5 breaths. When you take 5 breaths, that's your opportunity to come back in, pause, be curious. When you're ready, rebuild your chair. Hands to your hips, or more challenging still, your arms can be out in front, up, shoulder stretch. Something new, something different. Maybe your arms come back, palms face up. Lift your left heel, build your lunge. See how slow and steady, patient you can be through that transition. Then you can keep your arms back. You could keep them at your hips. You could keep them out in front. Check lower belly, middle belly, upper belly, all the way around to your side and your back strength. And then resist straightening your leg. Resist bending your front leg. 2 more times. Next time your right knee's bent, pause. Bring your hands to your hips and just check that you're not pushing your right hip out to the right. So it's really easy to push the right hip out like so. So the right hip sit bone right underneath or behind your knee. Squeeze your thigh bones in. Then maybe you put your arms back behind. Maybe you take them forward. Then we have to step that back foot forward. Find that little chair stool. Resist standing up. Ooh, arms come down, we get a break. 5 breaths. Notice your breath. Notice your strength. How much strength you have to be standing here doing this practice, to be breathing. When you're ready, build your chair. Think where your arms want to go. Arms in relationship to your spine. So we talked a lot about resistance and movements in the legs and the arms, but also in your spine. So it's easy when the arms go forward to push the ribcage forward. So we're resisting that. So the spine resists movement as well. So pick where your arms are going to be. Shift your weight. Lift your right heel. Okay, it's going to be more challenging, right? To go really slow. Sometimes we just want to power through, try not to drop the right leg, build that lunge on the left side. Check that you're not sticking your left hip way out. And it's really easy to push out like that and lose this connection. So nice and strong, sit bone behind your heel. Pick where your arms want to be. And then resist straightening and resist bending 3 times. Back right heel stays lifted. Length from the head to the tail. Find just the right projected lunge for you. You're the only one that feels your projected lunge, so settle in. Pick where you want your arms to be. 3 breaths. When you're ready, shift the weight. Remember, you have to step forward with control, back to your chair. Resist coming up to standing. 5 breaths. And then with your next exhale, if your eyes are closed, let your eyes open. And we'll walk towards the front of your mat. All right, so when you get to the front of your mat, feet parallel. Notice where you just naturally put the weight in your feet. I naturally just go into my heels. So it's nice to pay attention to like, oh yeah, I have balls of the feet. I bet they would like a little weight too. So you can shift around. And then exhale, sweep your arms out and up with resistance. So you're pulling up. Now shift the weight into your heels a little bit. Find a little bit of like your chair. Then you're going to exhale and you're going to resist folding forward. So go nice and slow, resist it. Reaching. You don't want to fall forward. It's okay if it takes you a couple breaths to go all the way over. When you get over, check in with your hamstrings and your low back. When you're ready with an inhale, lift your chest. Slide your hands up onto your shins or your thigh bones for a moment. And see if you can recreate the feeling of your tabletop here. So we're going to take just a couple moments, giving you some time. This is like doing a tabletop in the air. When you feel you've got, I got tabletop, exhale, fold. And then step your feet back and decide, do you want downward facing dog, tabletop, child's pose, or maybe you come on your side and take child's pose on your side. We'll all take 5 breaths. And then with your next exhale, we're going to come down to our knees and build your tabletop. So we'll take a little fork in the road. I know for some of us, cat-cow, where we round the back and then we slide the chest forward and find some extension. For some of us, that might work really, really well in our spines. We might have that capacity for that movement. For others of us, that might feel really scary. We might not want to go there. So for those of you who would like to do something other than cat-cow, you're going to look to do your pointer dog. And you can go pretty slow And you're resisting moving in your spine through your pointer dog, okay? For those of you who are like, I want to do both, go for it. You can start through your pointer dog, then bring your limbs back, do a strong cat-cow, and then do pointer dog on the other limbs. All of us are connected because we're paying attention to what we're doing. We're breathing together, and we're moving. So listen, feel, stop when you need to stop. We'll do just a couple more. So if you're doing a pointer dog, go side to side. If you're doing cat-cow, finishing up your cat-cow. And then we'll pause and we'll sit back for a moment. So last week a question came in and the question was, what's the difference between puppy pose and child's pose? So I thought I would just explain it. I don't think I gave a very good answer last week. So in child's pose, your knees are together and you're rounding more. So this is child's pose and it's really wide on your back. So if you find child's pose hard on your knees, you would roll over onto your side and pull your knees up, and you would still find some of that flexion. You could put your hand underneath your ear, okay? Or you could put a pillow or a blanket there, okay? So in puppy pose, we have more extension. We're looking for a little more, say, articulation between the shoulder blades. So your arms are out in front, you come into or down onto your elbows. And if you watch this part of my back, you'll see the difference. We push the hips back and you see this is really different than the rounding of your child's pose. Your child's pose is more rounding like this. Now, where we really want to be careful in this pose is that we're not just collapsing. Like this is gravity pulling my spine to the floor. This is my spine resisting gravity. And we really, really want to resist gravity so we get a true shoulder stretch. And you can practice that here, okay? So in tabletop, we'll just do one together. Walk your hands out in front of your shoulders. You want to try and get your elbows down to the floor and knit your ribs. Okay, so we're not collapsed down. There's still a lot of strength and connection, ribs to abdominals. You want to keep that connection of ribs and abdominals so that you get the front shoulder stretch. Knit, knit, knit the ribs, keep the abdominals strong, and then let your hips pull back. And you might start to feel a little more length and stretch in the front of the shoulder through the armpit. Your head can come down. If your head doesn't touch the floor, that's okay. Just take 2 or 3 breaths. Press down with strength into the ground. Come back onto your forearms. Good, and then we're gonna just come forward onto your belly. And then take your forearms out wide. Tuck your chin, look at the ground. Press into the hands and the forearms and reach your toes back. So bring your legs pretty close together, look for length, feel length. Press into the forearms and then just let your chest lift up and lower it. When you exhale, feeling your ribs draw down, your navel draw up into your back. You want to try and really keep the low back as long and strong as we can. Okay, so right here through that low back, keeping it long. Let's try 3 more. You're inhaling, coming up, exhale, with control, lowering down. And then you can let your head down, you can bring your hands underneath, look to the right, look to the left. Just take about a 5-breath break. It's a nice way to break, but also to really feel a little more of the breath through your back. All right, so in this next version, if you liked having your forearms down, you can keep your forearms down and do the last version again. If you want a little different challenge, you can lift your elbows up off the floor and straighten your arms a little bit. You know, reach your toes back. So you're pulling, it's really active. So the back of your legs are actively long, and you might add that idea of resistance, like you wanted to bend your knees, but you're not going to. That might really help you get into your hamstrings more. Strength through your low back. So again, remember upper, middle, lower abdominals, they wrap around. We want all of that strength. So either elbows bent or arms out in front, chest down, nose down. Pull your arms back like you could pull yourself forward. So as you pull your arms back, feeling yourself pull forward a little bit isometrically, you're not going to really move. You can lift your chest. And then you can lower down. So I am pulling back a lot. Very strong, pulling my arms into my upper back. Very strong feeling that I would like to bend my knees, but they're not. And I'm lifting and lowering with my breath. What does this feel like for you? What do you notice when you go up? What do you notice when you go down? Let's try 3 more. Rest when you need to rest. Last one. Maybe you hold when you come up on this one. Maybe you're tired and you're already resting. Good for you. Pull lower down, hands underneath your head. Maybe you look to the right or to the left. And then we're going to plant your hands down by your ribs. Push down to lift your chest, to push yourself up. Pick puppy pose or child's pose. Now you know the difference, okay? If you need to, roll onto your back. Roll over to your side. Come to seated, okay? So if you're feeling a little tight in your back, feel free to go to a child's pose or roll on your back and draw your knees up. Maybe you want a little extra stretch through your chest, through your ribs. Just knit your ribs and do your puppy pose. Maybe you want to come to seated meditation. We'll take 5 breaths in one of these shapes. And then after 5 breaths, we're going to come up to either sitting or lying back on your back. So you could come up and find a really comfortable seated shape. You could lie back. Arms can come down by your side. If you're sitting, hands can rest gently on your knees. Just returning back, body breathing, checking in. How do you feel physically? How do you feel energetically? I'm going to just take the next 2 minutes in silence. What do you need? How can you use the next 2 minutes in silence in response to how you're feeling? You have monkey mind and your mind is really busy. It might be really helpful to anchor your mind to your exhale. Letting your body breathe for you. If you're feeling comfortable and grounded and anchored, 3 longer exhales. Following your next exhale all the way through to a comfortable pause. If you're on your back, starting to wiggle your fingers and your toes. You might take a full body stretch or draw your knees into your chest. If you're seated, you might take your arms overhead and just do an upper body stretch. We'll all roll on up to sitting. And just take a moment to look ahead at your day from a place of grounding, from a place of a little more calm. Just plan ahead, see your day, planning through the eyes of patience and a little more ease. And then when you're ready, if you haven't already, letting your eyes open. Thanks everyone so much for taking time. I know you all live busy lives, and so thanks for taking time out to practice, to take care of yourselves, to support our program. We'll take about a 5-second break here, and then I'm going to open up Q&A. So if you have any questions, stick around. I will try to answer them.